blogging,
The blogging, see? I told you, man.
Yeah. So, and she went to school for writing. Sorry, I wish I had known you a decade ago to let you know, hey man, you should probably do this with us, it'd be cool. But
he was making lots of money in the broker.
Well, us poor schleps were like schlepping along, not making anything. But I used to do these, like, so at the time I had like one crappy camera with a crappy kit lens, and my friend was writing these reviews for like restaurants, local restaurants in the area. So it was a sweet deal because we were broke. So we'd go together and she'd sit down and get this not free meal, but she'd get paid by the company to eat at this restaurant, and I'd eat with her because she could bring in a companion, and I'd come back and call them up and be like, hey, I'm shooting this thing for an article that someone wants to write about you. Can I come shoot your food? I'd get a second free meal.
That's right.
That's how you do it.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Because you could have shot it the first time you went.
No. See, I was smart. I had gamed the system really well at the time. Entrepreneur in the making.
That's right.
So I'd go back, get another meal, shoot it, because I had they weren't influencing any opinion, so the writer had to be secretive. I didn't have to be secretive, so I was just shooting the stuff. They had precedent to make like great dishes and make things look really pretty and enticing and whatever, but I mean, it was like for $50 a pop, I would do this freelance, get $10.99 in the mail. At the end of the year, it was like $300 or whatever. It's like or $1,000, but however much I had made that year. And that experience was great because it taught me how to build relationships with people in the community, and that was something that I was sorely lacking from art school because I spent so much time like megalomaniac, like feeding my own ego, just doing my own projects. So it gave me good perspective in a downturn economy where there were no jobs, while I was working some crap job like somewhere as a secretary, because I worked as a secretary for weird companies and whatever, and just trying to parlay myself into something like more effective. Eventually I did end up working for corporate for this massive conglomerate, and that was an amazing experience for me. So anybody listening to this podcast from that old job, thank you for putting up with me. I ended up working on a small marketing team creating like these little tiny T-shirt images for like Amazon, Target, like NHL.com, like all these places. These little tiny T-shirt, because it was a clothing company, little tiny Photoshop T-shirt images. And that experience ended up teaching me everything I needed to know in order to grow up and find the real path of what I wanted to do. From there, I got headhunted by a .com that was run by a skeleton crew of like 4 people or 3 people, myself included. Their annual revenue is $1.1 million a year. Wow. So I got to actually be elbow deep in helping them develop their business, and I found this is exactly what I want to do. I found out I have a special skill. I can help people communicate through visual design. I can help businesses grow. I can sell product. And like, these are all great skills. I don't need to do it just for this company. I could do it for myself, for other companies. And that's how I concepted PostFilm. PostFilm was executed on, and then now this is my full-time job. All right, so we're 20... You said the first idea for it was in 2011 or something like that. Yeah. By that time, I had been working for that company. Like, I had just started working for that company, that .com company, right? Because we started dating in 2011. So in the first 6 months of Jared and I's relationship, I was still working at that corporate job. And the first thing I wanted to do was just find my way out of it, because in that environment, there was no place for me to go up, and it wasn't anyone's fault, and it wasn't for me for lack of trying. There just wasn't a place for me to go up. So I could get stuck in a cube farm making these tiny little T-shirts for the next decade, or the choice was do something else. Right. And it just so happened that, I kept putting my feelers out there, like in the community. I was like, these are my skills, whatever. And a .com found me, and they were like, we were talking about this yesterday. I did a YouTube video about Google+. I literally put on like some lipstick and smoothed my hair down and got on video and was like, this is how you use Google+. Like right when it just came out. And that ended up getting me a full-time job at the .com. So a remote job. Yeah. That one tiny little thing of just putting myself out there and being like, I look like kind of a dummy, but this is how you use Google+ in 2011, Right. So yeah.
So y'all started dating in college or out of college, or what happened?
No, much later than college. I graduated college in 2004, a few years before Elizabeth.
And that was 2007.
I know.
Crispy. 1 foot in the grave.
Yeah. 1 foot in the rave.
In the rave.
Yeah.
That's right. Keep it partying until your bones are old.
That's right.
We concepted that name yesterday.
No, foot in the rave.
1 foot in the rave.
We can't. We're not allowed to concept new businesses at all on our own because they
have
all
names
have
like
horrible names
Yeah.
like that.
But I had moved up here and was working for a company up here, the financial company. And she was living in Tampa still. So we started dating. Mostly, she would come up here, I would go down there, and then when she got that online .com job and left corporate, she could come up and stay for extended periods of time.
But it was really weird because I would end up staying for it'd be a week, and then I'd go back down and check on my apartment and water the plants or whatever, and it'd go back up and it'd turn into 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden it'd turn into 3 months. And I had an apartment someplace in a completely different state.
Paying rent.
Right, yeah. In a completely different city.
Yeah.
Totally made sense.
Yeah.
Totally made sense. Yeah.
I had a little shoebox apartment.
450 square feet or 500 square, something like that. And, working on a laptop from bed because there was no place else to really sit. It was a crazy time. But it was fun.
Yeah.
I'd do it again.
You decided to move to Atlanta and pursue
2012, yeah.
Okay, and by then you had already concepted PostFilm.
I was like, it's time, we need to. And when I moved up here, that's when it started to get really real. Things, I moved the business up here. He and I started living together. Things started falling into place and started making sense.
Did y'all have a conversation and say, we're gonna do this business? PostFilm is gonna be it, and we're gonna have a certain amount of time to make it work, or find a job, or
no. So what ended up happening was I continued to work for that .com for a long time, and they were really cool with me because I was able to do what I wanted to do after hours or whatever. It was kind of like a 9 to 5 but remote, which was great because then I could do whatever I wanted to do. So, and that is the best decision I ever made, was staying with that .com until the very, very possible last second, because ultimately what was happening was while I was building my business, I was still earning money that I could fund my business with, and it made my business grow twice as fast. And then it came to a point when I was earning enough in my business, and I was basically earning 2 paychecks, and I banked everything that PostFilm was making for funding for when I did go full-time with it. Yeah. And by the time I went full-time with PostFilm, I had good backing, enough to make decisions that were like, hey, I'm going to do this, or hey, or it's slow season, I'm not going to panic because I have, a little bit of padding. Right. Worked my ass off to get there, but it was worth every second. 80-hour weeks, bizarre crying jags because I was exhausted, that was all part of the process, and it was worth every second. I highly recommend it.
You had to think this through, though. You had to plan it out. It's not something that just happens overnight.
You're going to make fun of me because my planning was like, when I save X, I'll quit. And I said that for 2.5 years.
X became Y, became Z.
Became
it just kept going.
Yeah, it just kept going. And then finally you were just like, you're going to have to get fired. Because I have a tendency to work for an extended period of time on things just because I feel obligated or there's some sort of safety net or whatever. And that was part of my journey of letting go. And your experience of quitting corporate was way more interesting than my experience. My experience was, all right, it's now time. The .com slowed down so much that they had to lay off everybody.
I see.
So I ended up quitting, but also there was no option.
It was inevitable. Yeah.
Jared's quitting was way more exciting.
And I want you to tell us about that, but I will point this out. You could have quit any time because Jared was rich. He was making broker money.
You should see his face. No.
That game doesn't pay a lot unless you're, in a certain type of role.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. So when before we get to that part, you made the jump and you knew what your budget was and you knew what money you needed to make. Yeah. You were making it then.
Yeah. So the business was already full-time by the time I left to do it full-time.
Gotcha.
And I don't recommend it. It sucks because you're working 2 full-time jobs and basically you don't have friends and you're like, hey, Jared, can you bring me a sip of water while I'm typing? And just hold it while I'm typing, and I'll just drink out of the corner while I'm typing, you know, that kind of situation. Or I think I showered today, I'm not quite sure, we'll just let it go, you know, stuff like that. And all of a sudden you're sitting in your pajamas 5 days later going like, when did I put these on? You know, So, I mean, I don't recommend that, but you got to do what you got to do. You know, you got to build up that bank account or get an investor or whatever, you know, to make it work. And that's how we made it work. So, and
it depends on the type of job that you already have on hand that will determine how long that transition is going to take.
I can't imagine.
And the level of your budget that you to live. Yeah. You know, because I know in my life, and I haven't had a job in 20 years where I've had to clock in and clock out. There have been times where I had to downsize. You know, things get tough, and you go lean quickly. You're like, okay, that was fun.
Who wants spaghetti again tonight?
That's right.
Raise your hand.
All right.
If you have enough energy to, because there's not much nutrients in spaghetti. Yeah, I feel you. I mean, we took a look at that, but at the same time, too, it was also like, you know, I couldn't imagine clocking, like physically going someplace. And what was driving me crazy was that corporate job that I did have where I actually had to go to an office. I was finding myself failing faster that I was freelancing the more serious I got with trying to do my business. It just so happened that I got a wonderful, very lucky break that I was able to work for a .com. And like that, let me recommend everybody go find a .com job. It'll be great for you, you know? So I mean, like, everyone's path is completely different. I recognize like how privileged I was for being able to actually do this, and I definitely, I'm honest and, you know, transparent about that experience. Like, I had great people around me to help me through this journey, and it was a lot easier because of that. So
very good.
Thankful for everybody, for sure. But
nice.
I couldn't do it on my own. I can't imagine doing it at corporate, clocking in someplace like that. That would be nightmarish. No way.
Because they can demand every minute of those 8 hours, every little bit.
I remember my boss at my corporate job, God bless him, poor guy, he would come over and I'd be like on my phone, like answering a freelance thing, and he'd be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, working, you know? I was technically working, just not on the thing that he was paying me to do, you know? So, I mean, we all gotta go, we gotta do what we gotta do, you know?
Yes. So, Jared, tell us about the last job you had and how that realization...
How you quit?
Yes.
So I was working, I was still working for a financial company, but I was doing marketing for business-to-business stock plans, stuff, whatever. Private equity, you know, plans, things like that, things to manage, those kind of things. And it was a salary job so I didn't have a clock in, clock out, so to speak, but was working way longer than the 40 hours that I should have been. On top of having to drive out to Alpharetta from downtown every day, which
is like 2 hour drive all the way around, right?
Yeah, more or less 2 hours a day in the car, 3 on Friday. So it was so in addition to just working these insane hours and being stuck in the car for that long, and then I started freelancing on top of that, doing doing web development on the side. I was working some insane hours, and got to the point where I didn't quite have we had a safety net, but didn't quite have it as planned out as you would want to do when you are, in that position. And, I was like, I think we can scrounge up enough freelance work. I'm just going to quit. So basically I just walked in one day and said, I'm done. And,
Did you give them 2 weeks? Or you
absolutely gave my 2 weeks. Because you never know, you may need to come back.
Burn that bridge.
You don't want to burn that bridge.
I feel you.
I didn't give the 2 middle fingers and walk out kind of thing. And I didn't feel that way necessarily about that job. Anyway, it was just, it's not that it was bad, it just wasn't for me.
It's just overwhelming with all the stuff you have going on, life, and then, a job, and then freelance. It's just too much sometimes,
But did you prepared yourself, though, for this moment? Because when did you learn coding or development or web development?
Right.
That was
over the few years before I quit. I got an interest in it for a number of reasons. Part of what my job was doing some light, email, HTML marketing stuff where I'd have to, figure out what was wrong in an HTML email, basically. So I kind of got to it from troubleshooting what was wrong with things.
Yeah.
And then I got really interested in the front end development portion. So I just started doing it online. There's so many free resources for learning to code that it's it takes no financial investment. It's only a time investment.
Yes.